The world of Warcraft has 36 specializations to play in this massive zombie of an RPG. That's quite a spectacle of different playstyles to immerse the player into. And while only 5 of those specializations are really useful, today we'll once again try to answer the question of if it's possible to conquer the game if you gimp a class by taking away its equipment. Can you beat World of Warcraft using only items picked up from dead bodies? I will not waste a lot of time here, as this is the 4th installment of this particular challenge. So far, we've dipped our toes into Fury Warriors, Restoration Shamans, and Protection Paladins. Now we gaze onto the Affliction Warlock as a new ranged combatant to add to our list of shining characters. To sum up, we can only use armor and weapons from dead bodies, no battlegrounds or dungeons are allowed. 3 wheels were spun to bless me with an inflicted, agonizing feeling. The first wheel picked my specialization, which ended up as an Affliction Warlock, one of my favorite playstyles. The second picked my race, churning out my least favorite cast of characters in a Worgen, and the final wheel picked my expansion, which forced me into the Cataclysm zones. But there is a problem here, and I will address it shortly. You must suffer for about 10 more seconds before getting that information. Since I was forced into the skin of fur I did not want, I made my disdain so active that I'd end up getting kicked out of a guild for it later. Apparently, irony is lost on this generation of gamers. I revved up the antics of this anti-furry warlock and let the void begin. As I stripped down my gear, I already had a problem on the horizon. You see, the third wheel mentioned the Cataclysm zones, which include Vash'jir, Maldraxxus, Twilight Highlands, Uldum, and Deepholm. The problem is that you can't access these zones until level 30. Thankfully, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but by choosing Worgen, we technically have picked the Cataclysm starting zone, but until I hit level 30 after this starting area, I will have to resort to picking a random location to level in to bide some time. Nothing of note happened at the beginning of this challenge. After all, Affliction Warlocks are a class I expect to get the least amount of equipment for, as they can't wear 75% of the armor dropped in the game. I'm sure getting pants for this character will be just as challenging as when you forgot to do your laundry because your dryer was not working for the day. At level 4, I got the opportunity to finally show these furry bastards what for, rode a horse through a plain of ravenous dog meats, got backed into the corner of a church as the infidels took over, and had the displeasure of being released into the world as a full-fledged furry form. After jumping onto a boat with grace and dignity, which was a lie because I absolutely flew into the side and crash landed, I netted enough Gilneas good boy points to finally obtain my specialization of choice. I'm going to spoil something for you. I fucking love this run for several reasons. Damage over time playstyles are absolutely one of my favorite ways to play World of Warcraft, and Affliction Warlock is essentially the poster child of this style of game. Getting to this point also ensures your Voidwalker will also play a critical role in your gameplay, so the ability to melt enemies combined with hiding behind a fog cloud like a real man would appeal to my sense of masculinity that our society has decided to toss into the trash. Boy, that was a mouthful. The local barons would also come to appreciate how much my afflictions melted their heart problems away, like butter goes down to your organs. After nearly ending the Shadowlands expansion for the second time in one of these challenges, taking up Drained Soul as my first specialization ability, and blowing up a ship because it's not an item from a dead body, I was off to Desolace to begin my filler zones before level 30. Desolace. Oh boy, what a mistake this zone turned out to be. That's the last time I asked one of my random friends to pick out a place for me to zone in. While I did manage to snipe some new wrist guards from a flamboyant demon, as well as go further down the irony line by donning a Little Red Riding Hood, I would be lying if this zone didn't make me consider cutting this content early. All of Desolace's quests are spread out to annoy the player's sense of quick leveling. Combined with the fact that most quest lines are fetching quests in the form of collecting 15 leprechauns, it's a wonder how this marvelous zone has stayed untouched for so long. I picked up another set of bracers that made me think I should keep a counter for how many end up on all my characters, and then shortly afterwards I made a mistake in how many Naga I could kill and watched as they slurped my innards into a soup. By level 20, I regretted every fetch quest in this forsaken zone, picked up a cloak from a half-eaten horseman, became surprised at how much equipment I managed to grab once the shoulder pads dropped, and got one more pair of bracers because this game's equipment loadout consists of wristbands. Someone died, it might have been me. Admit that twice because I forgot to read the quest instructions where I'm supposed to charge in on a half-noble steed. I was really starting to dread each moment in Desolace as the deaths began to ramp up, and it should be noted that the Voidwalker's health is equivalent to your equipment, meaning they don't last long against powerful foes. So I went off to the bottom of the sea where sirens held the rings of a married man, and thankfully, after a little adventure, we arrived at Feralas where the actual game could begin. Once there, I hit level 25 and took Siphon Life, which gave me another damage over time ability to magnify my spells, and found a rare that gave me a powerful piece of equipment that allowed my video no longer be age restricted. It's as if Desolace was a curse upon my soul, as shortly afterwards, I was garnering new items by the second. In fact, I felt so good about this new era that I celebrated joyfully by massacring the entirety of an ogre faction. One of the dads, God bless him, gave me a promise ring for the daughter he never had, and then shortly after the party, I found another pair of bracers because you knew this was coming. The game is desperate for me to make the same joke I've said in my past 3 playthroughs, even giving me a dagger to take a hint. For not doing so, I was punished severely, just like every dictator in the world who holds his power so loosely. A puppy died, and I used his ears to make a new pair of gloves. You may have thought I was done massacring ogres, but it turns out I left my cloak at the festival. I ended up trading my special dagger for a shiny dirk stuck in the side of a bug. Wished I wasn't the exterminator, as this part of the run saw some decline in my best equipment. Well, except for when I found a rare that would don on me one more pair of pants. At level 30, I chose Demon Skin as a passive perk that essentially magnifies my shield from soul leeching, and finally we were off to the Cataclysm Zone in the Shandy Shores of Uldum. Though interestingly, once I got to one of these zones, not as much equipment was gained, so I'll try to keep it brief. After freeing myself from a cage, I went chasm dicing to help out Harrison Jones in solving the obelisk problem, blasted some powerful chunks out of some statue deities, figured that the oasis would be an excellent place to take a vacation, and met a beautiful serpent lady with a magical tube-like figure, and apparently Blizzard is Team Cat based off how many dogs they have you fuck up in their games. At level 35, I took up the Vile Taint as an AoE ability to supplement the 2 at a time kill style that I ingrained into this character. And let me tell you, there was nothing more fun than slaughtering an entire gnomish army. They seemed to enjoy it too. We even went on a thrilling ride of Fireball around the sands, and their screams of joy were music to my ears. Back to the A-plot of this zone, I acquired a unique necklace while invading the Neverset City, and then I realized the A-plot was boring, so I bring you the Schnotz plot, where the weapons and warriors are galore. Somehow I died again, probably because of a bug on Blizzard's end. Schnotz's questline is one of the best in the games. How often do you watch a turkey blow up after too many drinks? On to the next task, where it almost took me 5 minutes to kill this dragon, and he rewarded me with an even worse belt than what I had on. I finally reached level 40 and picked up Mortal Coral to fear enemies and gain health in a pinch. Then we chugged some nukes and acquired an achievement I forgot existed during this quest zone. Once the dust settled, we wrapped up the rest of Uldum and set our sights on another landing site in Vash'jir. In Blizzard's SeaWorld, I acquired a fast-paced horse for this slow-paced gameplay, acquired another one sword that had blunted under the pressure of being at the bottom of the fucking ocean, and swam into a cave for a lightning round of new items. Now got poured in by the second during the cave's defense quest in Vash'jir. From this, I was able to attain a new cloak, followed by a dagger, and then a pair of bracers. I'm beginning to see a pattern here. After pulling out a sword from a crab, I used that crab's still wiggling body to awaken a demigod, and watched the after-party's effects while taking Haunt as my next talent, which increases my ability's damage output by 10%. I felt proud when I dragged the Naga into some bloody demise, and then we became one with the enemy while going through the fastest experience storyline of Vash'jir. Honestly, I wish the entirety of Vash'jir was closer to this style. After all, it's much more fun to feel the power of one-shotting an enemy. Despite that, and one death from a hungry shark, things seem to be going well. That is, until now. We've hit a wall, you see, for at level 39, I got a quest called It Will Come. Thinking it was a normal quest line, I set out to take care of it. However, this quest quickly turned into a big problem. The boss fight consists of spawning ads while burning down the boss. The problem here lies within the ad itself. The ability of an extra member two-shots my character instantly, and my Voidwalker doesn't do much better to take the brunt of the damage. I tried different strategies, starting with fearing the ad, which I learned he was immune to. I tried fearing the boss before the ability spawns the ad, but he's one of those bosses that spam casts the spell until it's fully complete, and furthermore, you can't really stop the interrupting of the cast as it's a protected ability, meaning it is uninterruptible regardless of whether or not it's classified as a spell. There were in fact several attempts. I actually looked up why this boss fight was giving me problems, and from what I read, the boss was initially set up as a group fight, but most of the elite boss fights were brought to normality when the zone scaling took place. I say most, as clearly there are still some programming errors that resulted in my wet fur being scattered amongst the sea floor. Does this end the challenge? Well, no, not really, but it does mean I have to give up on Vash'jir and switch to another zone. But not before trying to fly out of Vash'jir, getting fatigue sickness, dying, and resurrecting in Tirisfal Glades with resurrection sickness for 10 minutes. After all that, I switched over to Twilight Highlands storyline, died a couple more times to cannons blasting on the beachfront, when reached level 50 where I took my final talent in Soul Conduit to have a 15% chance to restore soul shards when spent. Due to a delay in going to the Shadowlands, I could skip the long, drawn-out maw and go straight to the Barton's LIT of boring introductions. I died to the echoes of Can You Beat World of Warcraft's past, present, and future, and acquired a new damage over time ability that increases my output with a powerful new boon. The Forsworn's Temple takeover was less than ideal for my Voidwalker and I to handle, mainly because my Voidwalker always seemed to die at an alarming rate, followed by me having to force myself to try to survive long enough to keep the battle going and finish off the fight. Combined with the tight-knit closeness of all the mobs around, and you've got a stew on how a video game makes a strangler of mouse and keyboards. Next was the Forgelight's Locust, where I acquired a powerful trinket that likely helped increase my damage. Nothing of note happened outside of that Locust, so I switched to doing side quests until I hit level 53 and had one more death tacked onto my count. Beyond that, smooth sailing continued down the road until we hit Maldraxxus for the first time and the fourth time. I actually managed to die despite the buff in the initial ring battle. Surprising, I know, but this is a squishy warlock we're talking about here. After that embarrassing display, they still let me fight the High Champion with a new bolt to blast away the soul surrounding her neck. After a sound victory and arrival at the Chosen House, I fell to a soul inside of a sword, and then acquired Fleshcraft. Typically I wouldn't mention secondary abilities, but this one allowed me to use infinite use of Health Funnel on my Voidwalker, allowing for more ease of life. What's more, on my journey to the House of Plagues, the Remnants of Cosmo dropped his wand to grant the wishes of Timmy's apprentices. I giddily used this wand against despised enemies and was rewarded with a pair of eaten-up shoes fit for the claws snug around my paws. The mention of Fleshcraft was a partial lie, not because the ability isn't functional, but because I didn't use it half of the time. However, I used it enough where the rest of Malpractice was a cakewalk, and we found ourselves moving on to Arnold's Wad. It's no surprise that this zone is absolute garbage, and what better way to start off than reducing my stats with a wristband fit for you know what, no, we're not doing this time, stop it Blizzard. We managed to acquire Soul Rot, or what I'd like to call Free Drain Snot for 8 seconds, and then a game changer. Another trinket, this time one that allowed me to blow massive amounts of damage and not die to any more enemies. Only one of those 3 things were true, and judging by the duration left on this video, you probably knew that. I did finally end up getting yanked at level 57, but what's interesting is I almost won this fight against this demon hunter. After sneaking on some more pants that continued to plummet my stats towards the end of the game, I successfully managed to fail at keeping myself alive against an elite enemy. Bit off more than I could chew against the Just Invasion, did it again because as we've established I don't learn lessons, and finally got out of the fairy odds world into the land of revelations. We're getting to the home stretch now and I need all the help I can get. Desperate, I grab one last trinket before hitting level 59, where the final arc begins. We acquire Impending Catastrophe, which is essentially another dot to magnify my damage over time, and set off across the bridge where I thought I could take on a fully grown bear as a house pet. I did get ganked one more time by a mage who seems confused about how to get beyond the barrier, which was a lie because he ended up getting across it and killing me once more when the Inquisitor and I came out of Castle Nalasia. I also would fall one more time on the way to the Ember Ward, but beyond that, there were less than interesting things going on as I netted my final set of good boy points by escorting an old man into a crypt for tea time and beat World of Warcraft using only armor and weapons picked up from dead bodies. Thanks for watching the Affliction Warlock edition of this challenge. Leave a like if you want to see similar content to this one, and leave a dislike if you hated every single moment of it. If this video gets 3 likes, I'll try to release another one of these challenges. I'll also post a pinned comment down below, and if that gets 3 likes, I'll release a level of these challenges as I recorded them. Thanks for watching everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.